What if the body itself, rather than the mind, holds the pathway to peace, connection, wholeness, and physical well being? That's what we're talking about today on Wellness by Design. I'm your host, Jane Hogan, the Wellness Engineer, and my guest today is Dr. Sue Morter. Now, I've been a longtime fan of Dr. Sue's work, the energy codes. I loved the energy codes so much that I became a facilitator to teach that material. And now we are discussing her new book called The Anatomy of Awakening. And in this, we talk about how our spiritual anatomy is not just a metaphor, it's actually a mechanism. So tune into the episode to find out what that means and why you don't have to wait until you're healed, ready, or worthy to experience a life and live your best life without any restrictions, without doubts, and just live in wholeness. So if you are new here, welcome. I'm so grateful that you're here. And to my longtime listeners, I'm grateful to you too for helping to make Wellness by Design a top 3% podcast in alternative health in the entire world, which still blows my mind every time I say it. But thank you. It's because of you. And if you haven't already got your free chapter of my book, Pain Free on Purpose, Use Your Mind to Heal Your Body and Get Your Life Back, you can do that by going to thewellnessengineer.com/free chapter, and I'll send it to you. So let's dive into the episode. And also, if you haven't already subscribed, I would be so honored if you did. And I also love reading your comments. So let me know what resonated with you. What takeaways did you have from this episode of Wellness by Design? Okay, we'll see you inside. Dr. Sue Morter, welcome to Wellness by Design. I am so delighted that you're here. I'm like a big fangirl. Been following your work for a long time. The very first time I heard you, I think, interviewed about the Energy Codes book, I was like, oh my goodness, this lady is talking my language. And really dove into your world, loved the Energy Codes so much. I became a facilitator to teach it. An incredible body of work. And I was so excited to hear you had a new book out and it follows along from the Energy Codes. So anyway, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here and wonderful to be present with kindred spirit. It's always, the ingredients for an amazing conversation when we already know that we're in the same vibe in the world that we want to see unfold in this lifetime. So I'm thrilled to see where we might go today.
Me too. I love this bridging of science and spirituality that you do so well. And in this, the Energy Codes, your first book, was based on the 7 bodily chakras and embodying those to help, free ourselves and have live a more true to ourselves life, switching over from that protective personality over to the soulful self. And I love that. And in this book, you've gone to the other 5 chakras, or 5 other chakras. There's probably many more, but 5 other chakras. And so your book is called, make sure I say the book, your new book is called The Anatomy of Awakening, the 5 hidden codes to activate self-healing, unlock your higher consciousness, and live your divine destiny. And so it's based on these 5 chakras that are outside the physical body. So maybe we could even start there, because a lot of people are very familiar with the 7 in-body chakras if they've been doing any yoga or that kind of, or any energy work really. So let's hear about those other 5 chakras.
Sure. When I reference chakras, what I'm referencing is levels of consciousness, and not just these wheels of energy that are spinning inside the body, but it's consciousness. It's vibrational frequencies that we awaken and enliven, or we don't. And when people live in their head, they tend to not actually enliven the energy centers and the levels of consciousness that reside at lower, more grounded, more deepened vibrational frequencies. And so
Mhm.
we end up not really knowing the true self. We become very analytical and we overthink and we try to logic our way through life. And it creates a limited experience of who we are and what we
Yeah.
could be doing here on Earth on our grand journey onto the planet. And so as I was working with those levels of consciousness within the body through these concepts of embodiment, meaning moving from your head down to living in your heart and living in your gut and living in your deep, true wisdom and living in an awareness that we come into this life as the solution, not to survive what other people are creating. We come into this
Mhm.
life to create our own life experience, to come to know who we are. And so that was the energy codes. And as I was working with people, I began to recognize that there are higher states of consciousness that we have access to as well. And they are represented inside of energy centers that are not located within the physical body because
Mhm.
they vibrate at too high of a frequency to be contained in the physical end of the spectrum of all energy. So I started working with these higher vibrational frequencies and the levels of consciousness that go with them. And so they are referenced as chakras 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 inside the context of how we're speaking about them in the Anatomy of Awakening book. And so what that includes is an energy center 2 feet above your head, another energy center 4 feet above that, another
Mhm.
energy center into the earth beneath where we sit or stand or walk, that is constantly holding the space for this entire project to take
Mhm.
place as we walk the planet. And chakra 11, that would be 10 in the earth, and then chakra 11 and 12 are representing a movement of energy from the unified field of all energies into this physical dimension in the first place. So if we kind of flip those over for a moment and just say that if we put all the energy together in all of creation, it generates what we call, or it reflects, the unified field, the 0 point field, the field of infinite possibility, the ultimate in realms, all realms, the heavens, if you will. It's been referenced in so many different ways, but it
Mhm.
really is talking about all of the all, everything that is in the manifest world and everything that is waiting in the unmanifest world to manifest. So it's a lot. It's like everything that you can ever imagine. And
Mhm.
that's chakra 12. And chakra 10 is or chakra 11 then is the movement of that, the engagement of that unified field to begin to incarnate in the first place, to move into this life, the desire to become. So it is represented as the I am presence. We are becoming a someone, a something. A
Mhm.
soulful journey is ensuing, and we are really projecting ourselves into this third dimension to come in and have an experience, to refine our soulful self into the pure spirit on a conscious level that we are. So it's a very big conversation.
It
And at the
is.
same time, we can break it down and
Mhm.
work with that in ways that are profound, that are undeniable in terms of our direct connection to source. So what it became was really the answer to my inquiry of, everything is energy, and energy is flowing through this system that we are living in. I referenced the toric field, the
Yeah.
the the movement, the geometry that energy moves through our body from above the head down through the body, hits the earth, rises up and cycles around and around and around, and it's always rising up and it's always descending in, and it's always recycling and recycling. I have an image that I can just show briefly that kind of demonstrates that. This energy is pouring in, it hits the earth. Before we even have a body, the energy hits the earth, reflects back, and rises up. And as it rises as high as it can go, based upon the consciousness that we are and that we can hold while we're here in this dimension, it rises as high as it can go. And then it fountains around, just sort of like a fountain that you see in a retaining lake as you're driving down the road. You see these fountains out in the middle of the water,
Yeah.
shooting this water up, and it's spraying around and falling, and it hits this lake again and gets sucked back up and rises up through the system and spews out the top again over and over and over. And that energetically, when we study bioenergetics and how the energy flows through the human system, we recognize that that's exactly what's happening. Same in our own physiology, in our own energetic anatomy and our own energetic movement. So what happens is most people are operating in this sort of a way, where this energy comes in, hits the earth, rises up, and we've shut down ourselves in certain ways based upon experiences that we've had in this lifetime, or maybe even prior to, and might be why we're coming in to refine such things and to further our ability to remain a creative essence, even when we come to this frontier of consciousness called the third dimension. And so we want to get good at that. So we shut these things down. When this energy is rising, it has to go around all the areas that we have shut down, and it generates a wobble in the rising essence of the truth of who we are. And that wobble causes us to feel insecure. It causes us to feel inadequate, uncomfortable. And it generates a distortion in the field because it comes up wobbling and it generates this distortion. Now this individual is standing inside a distorted energy field, looking out through it, and they see a world that is distorted. They see a world that is not, congruent. It's not supporting them. They can't interpret it that way. Things feel different than they ultimately are intended to. And so with the energy codes work, what I've been doing is teaching people how to build the circuitry right through here so that we're not circumventing around. Now, the more we do that, the more we become available to recognizing higher and higher states of consciousness. In other words, that fountain can shoot up higher and circle bigger instead of just barely getting by. When we take that wobble out, the essence, the energy rises up higher and starts including more territory, more vibrational frequencies. Higher and higher states of consciousness become accessible until we actually are, I think I have another image here, we actually are,
Love that
building this more and more and more, bigger and bigger and bigger, until it ultimately is including the higher self in the daily rotation of the energy flow that is influencing our bodies and our lives and our thoughts. And so when we allow this field to become bigger and more congruent, we are literally able to start thinking as the creative essence that we are, that chose to come into this life and have this life experience in the ways that are meant to evolve us and to leave this place better than we found it, meaning to contribute to the elevation of human consciousness overall. And so it brings us to, what we're talking about here is that, if you put all these things together, here's the unified field. And it begins to compress and compress and compress and compress. And in those compressions, it's making its way into physical expression. So let me just pause and say this. All physical matter is compressed energy. Everything is energy that's just compressed into the density of the chair that you're sitting in right now, the bodies that we're residing in right now. We've created a physical version of ourselves by compressing and compressing and compressing and compressing and compressing until we land here and have that toric field doing what it's doing and building a system that then projects this rainbow movie out in front of it and walks into it, all the time. We're constantly walking into a life experience that is based on how well we're allowing this to pour through us without interrupting it, without creating the wobble and the distortion of it, by allowing it to be what it truly is. So one last thing. We think this is who we are and that we're supposed to allow this to come into us. So that, at best, just given this conversation, so that we can allow the energy to pour through us that looks like one that is communicative and loving and forgiving and conscientious and patient and self-healing and innovative and creative and genius and successful and rejuvenating and empowered and on and on and on. But really, and this is the big quantum flip in this book, The Anatomy of Awakening. I want people to realize, actually, you are not this, receiving this only. You are actually also this, choosing to come in, choosing at this level to become, to incarnate, to come into this life, to have an experience of infinite possibilities that you are made of. So when we identify as this and say, hey, there are infinite possibilities out there for you, grab them and have them and go live your life, we're still leaving something out of the mix that makes it really difficult for us to ever receive it all. And it's because we other the power. We take it out there and think that it's bigger than us, bigger than we could ever be, resonant in vibrational frequencies that are reserved for when we die and go to heaven, instead of having it here now. And so what we're doing, when you put the research together, when you put all the science together and you put the ancient spiritual teachings together, they actually say, this is who you are.
Yeah.
And this is what you're doing. And our job is to allow this to not take things so personally that it allows us as the true self to pour through this and create a movie that we truly love walking into, create a life that we love living.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if that's helpful, but it's a lot.
It's a big concept to get across, and you did it beautifully. I think a lot of the people that are listening and watching this podcast have health issues,
Mm-hmm.
and they think their health issues, often they think it's like a physical thing.
Yeah.
And what I'm understanding from what you're saying, it's that we're not seeing ourselves as that. And it's not all coming through. We got that wobble going on. And so our level of consciousness is not rising to where it needs to be. We get stuck somewhere, and then that has a physical manifestation. And so so this work is also about healing the body. It's about healing your life. It's and awakening to actually who you really are, which, that's the name of the book, Awakening. And so I want to do this quote from the introduction that I really loved, because it sounds very spiritual and esoteric for people. But what I love about your work, Dr. Sue, is that you bring it back to like tangible things we can do to allow all of that. So you said our spiritual anatomy is not merely metaphor, it's mechanism. And so would you like to explain that a little bit? There's a mechanism there.
Yes, indeed. So, when we are allowing the mind to release in its identification with a 5 sensory stimulus response individual who's constantly being impacted by our environment, by our relationships, by how people treat us or what happened in our lives, when we are thinking that, look, I'm just here to survive. I got to get through this. I got to heal this stuff up that got broken along the way. It's very difficult to actually do that when we are still identified as this separate self that is trying to, make ends meet, make things make sense, heal things, forgive people, move forward, figure out who we are, etc. And while we're in the process of trying to do that, we are actually interrupting that flow. That flow has been interrupted. And we are identifying as a separate self. We're not receiving, we're certainly not identifying as this high frequency being that has chosen to come into this life. We're not empowered at all. We're just here. Look, my mom gave birth to me. It wasn't a good time living in my family. Things happened, in my romantic life has been horrible. My success rate has not been great, etc. And living under those conditions, we ultimately have a tendency to shut down on a physical level. And it shows up like I'm not consciously digesting my life properly, and my physical digestion gets affected.
Mm.
I'm not feeling supported in the universe the way that I want to, and my back, my spine gets affected.
Mhm.
I'm not embracing what's happening in my life as if it is in support of me. And so my immune system fights all the time, and I become weakened in certain ways. I am not allowing my intuition and my inspiration to drive my life. Instead, I'm constantly locked into logic and strategizing and figuring it out, using my mental capacity to move me through life. And consequently, I end up with headaches. So that list goes on and on
And
and
on and
on
on.
and on. And so
Mhm.
what I'm trying to show people is that you don't have to do it alone, because you're not an isolated, alone, separate self. You are a stream of consciousness. You're a wave of energy coming into this world. And if you identify as that wave, these are the basics of quantum science. If you identify as the wave, your life is going to change. You're going to transform. You're going to heal.
Mhm.
If you identify as a particle, which is the whole foundation of quantum science, they set out to determine, what's the deal here? What's the basic foundation of our reality? Is it physical matter, particles, or is it waves of energy that are operating? And when they set up the equipment to test if it was a particle, if it was a physical reality that was the foundation of our life experience, things tested as a yes, it's a
Mhm.
particle. And if they set up the equipment to test if that same subatomic, expression, a photon, operated like a wave, it did the same. They're testing the same thing from two different angles. And so what quantum science realized was we find what we're looking for. We have the power of
Mhm.
creating the outcome. We have the
The
power of
expectation.
generating
Mhm.
what we're going to experience just by our come from. If we're
Mhm.
expecting one thing, that's what's going to happen. If we're expecting worst case scenario, we're going to be delivered worst case scenarios, because the system is sorting for worst case scenarios. If we are expecting flow and possibility and healing, and we're really embodying that, then that's what happens. The energy responds to consciousness, because what we have found is, through quantum science, the foundation of reality is consciousness. It's not material things. It's not what happened to you. It's not the fact that you were in a car accident. It's how you feel about the car accident. They never should have crossed the line. They hit my car. It never should have happened. My whiplash, my neck hasn't been the same since. We're now victimized by that. Was raised by an abusive mother. I just don't even know what love is. Victimized by mother's behavior. Now, at age 50, or 60 or 70, by then, we really have had an opportunity to turn those situations around, to turn them into something that works in our favor. But if no one has shown us how to do that, we still very clearly and legitimately feel at the effects of our past experience. So the mechanism is, I'm wishing I was in my other studio right now so that I could show you a picture of this. It's in the book, The Anatomy of Awakening, that shows a line coming, just demonstrating this wave of energy coming from this unified field, if you will, this unified field coming in and hitting the earth and rising up and cycling around. This is not the image, but it cycles around and then it projects into the world. And that's a mechanism. It literally is something that we have the opportunity to turn this on and turn this on and activate our ability to catch all this energy and let it fill the body and let it cause revelations and realizations inside of us that we are filled with answers, because it's true. But if we've not been turning on that entire mechanism, we never feel the fullness of our being. We never allow for the wholeness of our system to, to be what we're referencing. We're overriding it by overthinking and
Mhm.
strategizing, and we suppress that rising wisdom all the time. And so it never gets to project out into our lives as the solution that we actually are coming into this world. Think about it like this. There is a mechanism that if I turned on all the parts to it, It would allow me to know myself as a creative influence, an influence in my world. And I would be able to sense and feel this universal intelligence pouring through my system, showing up as gut feelings and intuitions and what has heart and meaning to me, and allowing that to fill my senses and allowing that to guide me to take actions in the ways that I'm meant to be taking actions in this world. But instead, if we go back to that image of this whole thing, if we cut all that off, if we cut all that away, which is how most people are operating, we think it's just up to me. I just got to go do this stuff. It's all up to me. But what
Work
if the
harder.
power of the universe was behind you? What if that's what had your back and was allowing you to have the courage to speak differently into those situations, that you not speaking into them is exhausting your adrenal glands and causing your thyroid to overwork in order to cover for the adrenal glands that aren't able to do their job because we're in a constant state of stress, dysregulating our nervous system, etc., and all the other things that people are becoming so aware of in terms of self-healing and the world of educating ourselves in natural healthcare and energy medicine and so forth. There's a lot of information has come into our communities, information that I've been teaching for 40 years and that my father was teaching for 40 years prior to that. So what we have to realize is the reason that we flail physically and that we don't heal easily is because we're not using the wholeness of the system and the mechanism that is here coming in to this life to live. We negate it. We ignore it. It's invisible. We can't see it, so we don't think it's really tangible and relevant. And so when we say it sounds a little spiritual, we need to get a little scientific. I say au contraire. We need both to be equal in value in the things that we're assessing if we ever really want to live into our whole full human potential. Because science is spiritual. Everything is energy. Everything is spiritual. Energy is spirit. Spiritual energy is invisible energy. Our invisible anatomy has been driving our lives, all of our lives. Our hunches, our gut feelings, our ability to digest food, maintaining our blood calcium levels the way they're supposed to be. All of it is invisible. It's all happening without us laying our eyes on it. But if we understand what's happening in our invisible anatomy, these chakras 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, they're not just static places. They serve roles. They serve functions. And it's that functionality that we need to become interested in, turning on every aspect of the big mechanism so that it can do what it came to do, what it's supposed to be doing. So if we don't get in the way, it does its thing automatically. But we've gotten in the way so much for so long that we have to learn a little bit about how to stop doing what we've been doing to shut it down so that it can kick in and do its thing again. It's just like digestion is meant to happen. And it's only that we worry too much that shuts down digestion. That's the only thing that happens. And worrying too much puts us in a state of lack and creates communities and cultures that, try to improve upon nature in ways that have created foods that are almost indigestible and, in a bio field that is almost unrecognizable, all based in fear. And, the good news is it will replenish and rejuvenate the moment that we recognize, oh, this isn't up to me as a person. This is up to me as a steward of something profound. And each one of us is made of that.
And all we need to do is allow it.
Allow it. Allow it.
So beautifully said, Dr. Sue, and helping people understand, like, science and spirituality are really like that. They're, as you said, they're not separate. Science is proving spirituality, especially what a lot of ancient traditions have been talking about for thousands of years. I want to ask you about something. I'm thoroughly enjoying the audio version of the book. And I've noticed, so in the energy codes book, we worked from the bottom, from the root chakra up. In this book, you're starting from the top down.
Mm.
And I love that. So why is that? Why are you
Why is
approaching
that?
it that way?
Yeah, I found that people are in constant pursuit of enlightenment, meaning waking up to more things, being more aware, being more illuminated on a tangible, scientific, reproducible level. And also, they're ultimately seeking meaning in their life. They're seeking guidance in their life. They're seeking understanding of how it all fits together. At the end of the day, that's what everybody really wants. And if they
Mhm.
knew that, their system would work the way it's supposed to be working if they weren't questioning it, if they were aware, if they were in touch with nature, if they were in touch with cosmic law as well as natural law. And I explain all that in the book. And the reason that I started with 12 and started talking about 12, 11, 10, 9, 8 is that if we don't start to give some airtime to 12, to
Yeah.
our ultimate expression, the biggest version of us that is directly connected to the rest of the cosmos. If we don't start really getting to know who that version of me is, how that one walks and talks and lives and breathes and is, we never get there. We keep holding it as some goal that we're going to get to one day. Whereas what quantum science is showing us is if you just flip it over and you just sit down inside of that reality and you start living your way into the world from that vibrational frequency, from that radio station, if you will, the world of physical matter will respond to you accordingly. I'm going to say that again. It's so important. The world of physical matter will respond to you accordingly. So it's important right now for us to recognize some scientific research. It shows us that photons respond to our consciousness, to our thoughts. We know with Dr. Emoto, who did the research with water and different frequencies and freezing the water and seeing the different shapes of ice crystals that were generated from the different frequencies of love and care and intimacy versus hate and judgment and so on. It crashes the beautiful sacred anatomical structure of water when we move into worry and fear and anger and regret and resentment. And, we are water. So, it plays a role in our ability to heal. Fast forward 20 years, research is showing us so clearly that these little the tiniest little photons, the tiniest little packets of energy that exist are so tiny they respond to the waveforms of our thoughts, and they also influence our DNA. And our DNA has an effect on the outer world. We emanate and radiate a vibrational frequency based upon what we're turning on and what we're turning off in our own cellular structure. And so the way to turn that on to heightened states of consciousness that are oriented in perfecting and healing and reconstructing from an undistorted, uninterrupted space is to identify with the highest vibrational frequency version of ourselves as we can. And so it's not about earning your way up to being that one day. It's about recognizing, hey, that's your starting point. Your starting point is in divine proportion. You are coming in okay, fulfilled. You are complete and whole. And if you don't mess with that, it's going to show up that way. If you don't jump into fear and anger and distort yourself, it's going to continue to flow into your life, constantly replenishing and rejuvenating and building you from a different starting point. So I started at 12 so that people could get to know what it's like on the other side of what we perceive as the finish line. If you were at the finish line of a marathon and you step across that line, once you step across that line, you know what it feels like to run a marathon. You know vibrationally what it feels to feel the fruition of your efforts and your conquest, etc. That's how the linear physical world works. What the quantum world says is you can go straight to that vibration if you just would. If you would just make it more important than your regret or your resentment, or your attitude and your edginess, if you would make it more significant and more sacred to you, meaning you just are devoted to it every day, you're going to
Mhm.
do this in a heartfelt manner. If you would just live as if you are okay, and I don't mean fake it until you make it, I mean turn on the circuitry in your body that allows this mechanism to start to enliven in a consistent manner. And it requires actually quite the opposite of faking it. It requires you loving into yourself more than you have before. It requires a sacred loving, a greater love, not a conditional love, not a transactional love, but a love that is in full blown acceptance of self, radical acceptance of who we are and what we're doing here. I was just speaking to someone the other day who was talking about, she goes into a room and she's immediately assesses what she's going to need to do to be safe because that's what she had to do as a kid. And now she's 50 years old, over 50. She's actually 60, over 60. She's 65 years old. And she's still living that way and saying that that's what she has to do. And I say, as long as you say that, that will be true. But if you're interested in actually becoming comfortable, no matter who's in the room, becoming comfortable no matter what's going on around you, and then you lay down this idea of assessing every situation. Because what happens when you walk into the room and you're constantly assessing everyone in it to see if you're going to be safe is you never get to experience the real you. You
Mhm.
get to experience the protective you, which isn't the real you. And no one else gets to experience the real you. They only get to experience the protective you. And the reason I started with 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, because that's the mechanism. The
Mhm.
mechanism is this. You're made of the unified field of infinite possibility. You are compressing yourself and compressing and compressing and compressing on a high conscious level all the way into physical form. And you are landing here and gathering and gathering and gathering enough of that input, letting it rain in and come in, and never taking your eye off of the truth of what's going on till it's filling you on a conscious level. And as it fills you and fills you and fills you on a conscious level, you're able to have revelations like, oh my God, I do know the answers. I do know more than all these people who are strategizing in the bright, flashy things that are out there in the front. I actually do have what it takes to make this life work and to have my body heal. I am enough. You start to feel that, not intellectually, but you feel it in your heart. You feel it in your bones. You feel it in your cells. And it starts living your life for you in that way. And so then you recognize, oh my gosh, all the things that have happened in my life along the way, they weren't against me. They were for me. They were trying to push me, shove me into an alignment so that I could come back onto myself instead of being on other people all the time and assessing and evaluating and, measuring and monitoring. Oh my God, what a painful way to live. I know. I used to live that way. And
Me too.
so, I mean, we know what that's like. It's like, it's exhausting. And there's nothing fun about it. I mean, you have glimpses of great times and you think, well, that's just life. It's not. It's not enough. You're more than that. And so that mechanism pours in, fills this vessel. The vessel pours over its brim. The cup runneth over. And it's literal. It's physical. It's physiological. It's energetic. It's measurable. And as it pours over, it begins to generate a reality that is filled with chakra 12. It's filled with the infinite field of possibilities. We haven't lost touch with it. And so then we realize that actually everything that's been happening in my life has been a blessing. I've become more because of it rather than less because of it. And if we don't feel that way, it's because we have not allowed for the rest of this to come into the picture. If we're not feeling like, yeah, all those hard things, the fact that, my father wrote me out of the will, the fact that I was sexually abused by a family member, the fact that, I didn't get advances or raises in terms of, of jobs that I had along the way because of various aspects of myself, those were not against me. Those things were releasing my attachments to needing the approval, or thinking that I needed the support, or thinking that I'm not enough. And so when we allow it to serve in that way, we become free. But doing that alone is really tough. But doing it, doing it with just that in the mix, that's tough. It's tough to interpret all that stuff that way. But you put this kind of power behind you, the power of the universe pouring into you, and you learn how to feel it and allow it and sense it so much that you start to identify with it, so much that you can feel when you've disconnected yourself from it. When that starts to happen and you know what to do instantly to reconnect with it, to remember who you really are, the wholeness of that whole mechanism, when that starts happening, it floods right through you. Open your heart and it floods right into the space. And all of a sudden you can say what you need to say. And you can be patient and present and forgiving and compassionate and truthful and certain and clear and moving forward and be innovative and be a leader instead of somebody who's obsessed with fitting in. So I'll stop there, and just because it just gets
No,
whoa, it gets rolling, right?
good.
It's like so intense, but
It's so good. And you refer to that collectively as the God body.
yeah,
And in the book you talk about worthiness, because I think that's at the root of so many people not allowing all that to come in, is they don't feel worthy. They don't feel connected. But I know you're saying that's not true. We are worthy.
it.
And so would you like to address that a little bit?
No, I would. Yes, absolutely. We're made of worthiness. I mean, it's a
Mhm.
non-issue. It's not like am I or am I not. It's off the table. It's a non-issue.
Yeah.
Like if we would stop even thinking about worthiness and just start paying attention to, well, what are the vibrational frequencies of my chakra 12?
Yeah.
What is that? And if I just feel into those every day and turn them on inside my system, I'm starting to illuminate chakra 12. And so I'm starting to resonate with frequencies that we never do. And when I do turn them on, I start to enliven different parts of me. Just like the chakras 1 through 7, that when we start to work with different aspects of that consciousness, we turn them on, and our personal power increases, our ability to love unconditionally increases, our ability to heal or trust our gut. Those things increase. And this second book is just cranking up the volume on that and saying, we are not holding back anymore. It is not about worthiness. Take it off the table. What would you be doing if you were worthy of the divine? What would you do? And the mind is like, well, I don't know, because I'm not, and I never thought about it. And I'm saying, well, think about it and explore and give it a chance, and stop duping yourself by thinking, oh, no, 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 you say the word God and I'm not in, because that's blasphemy and that's all this. And I don't mean to take anybody's religion away or anything like that, but I do know this, that if you go back far enough in the sacred texts, there is nothing about judgment. There is nothing about a God who judges you. It's not. It was invented. And even today, books are coming out by ministers and priests and individuals who have lived their entire lives in that world, and are saying we need to take some of these. Well, the Bible is actually specifically what they said. Take it up and shake it upside down and rearrange some things, because there are some incongruencies here that are not making sense, are confusing humanity and keeping us from knowing the truth of who we are. So,
Mhm.
that's for everyone on their own individual basis. And I want you to know that you can work with these energies that connect you to God, source, whatever, and not be, going against whatever religion you might have that says you are separate from God, even though they will also say God is everywhere. God is
Yeah.
everywhere,
Contradiction.
except for maybe inside of me. It's like, no, God is everywhere. God is either everywhere or God is not everywhere. So those are the kinds of things that we're just like, it just needs to make more sense. So wherever we are in that developmental process, it's totally cool. I'm not here to like shake you down for that, but I do know this: if this unified field was God, and you just want to be closer to God, here's how I know to do it. animate the vibrational frequencies in between you and God. Just do that. You're going to
Mhm.
feel the beauty of God. You're going to feel the love and the support of God as if it's right here anytime you choose. I think one of the biggest things that we've done is turn God into a person who judges, and it dupes us so badly when in reality they spoke of the realms. They didn't speak of the God. And if they did speak about the God, they talked about the frequency that is here, that is the law over all things. The word Lord in Sanskrit means law. It's the law.
I didn't.
It's the highest. That's what it meant. So if you change that out in so many of the conversations that we have, it's like, may I align with the laws of the cosmos, with the way things go. May I
Mhm.
align with Source in that way. And when we do, Source pours right through. So it's as if we say, God, please give me. And then we surrender and it comes through. And then we think, oh, he heard me. And it's like, oh, it's a thing that people are going to have to reconcile for themselves. But in the meantime, we have to prepare ourselves to be able to receive. And
Mhm.
by the worthiness thing, if I want to honor the divine, the best way I can do that is vibrate as it. Don't hold myself separate from it. Completely surrender to it. Be one with it. Allow same. In my mind, that's like the ultimate honoring of what's being given, what's being offered, what's available for us. Become it. Then there's nothing in between. There's no resistance. I'm completely open and having it. So what would it feel like if I did? That's
Mhm.
what the book is about. It's just teaching us, if those doorways opened and you had direct access, which you do, and I write about those moments in my life where the doors flew open and I
Yeah.
witnessed and experienced and received and perceived the very things that I'm talking about. I'm not just coming to these conclusions from the place of science and logic. I'm also having direct personal experiences.
Mhm.
So I can't not share it for those that are interested in a little something more. And I want everyone to know that I'm completely respectful of anyone's religion that that is that is here listening, that is here, delving into these books. Because I have no agenda. I'm not trying to transform people. I'm not evangelizing. I'm not going out and saying, hey, Buddhism isn't, or Christianity isn't, or Judaism isn't. I'm saying they all are. And if you put them all together, that's what we should be paying attention to. There's some truth there in everyone's take on it. So,
Mm. I
yeah,
love how you make it so practical too, because people might be listening like, how do I do that?
yeah,
What you did in the energy codes, as well as this book, is have practices that we can do to have that felt experience. And as you said, it's a practice. You have to keep doing it. It's not like one and done. We need to keep ourselves in
yeah,
that vibrational state. Now, I'm wondering. I know in the second book, you do reference back to some of the practices from the energy codes book. Would someone be able to just jump into the second book and without having already done the
yeah.
energy codes book?
I made sure that it was a standalone
Yeah.
and that people could do that for this very reason. I didn't want you
Hmm.
to say, I want to give you this book and then say, oh, there's this other book you have to buy too.
Yeah.
It's not that. So I brought the foundational principles forward, spoke about them a
Hmm.
little bit differently, but they're
Yeah.
there. They're the same.
Hmm.
And there are some basic foundational things like anchoring ourselves in the body and using the
Hmm.
anchor points and breathing up and down the central channel. Because when we breathe up and down that central channel, we're aligning ourselves with that big continuum, that divine
Hmm.
continuum that goes from the unified field all the way right into this physical system that we are, of course. So it's all right there for you, step by step by step. In the very first part of the book, it's in 3 parts. And in part 1, I'm reviewing all those things and talking about how the nervous system works and how we're regulating the nervous system and how it all fits together in terms of a master system that built the nervous system and built your immune system and built your digestive system and built your hormonal system and so on. There's a master system that is this energy system that we're talking about here today. The master system is the master system. It's the master of your life. And if you learn to listen to it, it will guide you. And that's what this book is showing us, how to use our body to sense and to feel and to perceive what's trying to be said through us, through our life here. What is the purpose? It reveals our purpose of being. It reveals what we're here to do, what we're here to share, what we're here to reveal, what medicine we bring. It's showing us how to find that and reveal it and share it. And when we do, ironically, we heal. People think, as soon as I get well, I'm going to be able to go make a difference in my world. I'm going to be able to speak my truth. I'm going to be able to pursue the things that I want. And I say, au contraire. You flip that over, friend, and realize that as soon as you start doing those things, you're going to get well. Because the reason you're not well is because you've been withholding energy. You've been blocking it. You've been stopping the energy flow that's trying to flow because you were afraid, because you didn't know what else to do, because you're protecting yourself. And in the book and in all the work that I do, I'm always trying to show people how you cannot be so afraid, how you can trust what's going on, how you can love yourself more, how you can develop a better relationship between the truth of you and the mental version of you that you've created, the false self, the protective performing personality, the ego. All of that is protective measures. And how do we bridge them back together again? It's all in the practices that are in this book.
Love it. I love and I love starting with that number 12 and really feeling that godness in us, that.
I know. It's crazy.
Because why wouldn't we want to feel it? It feels so good.
Right? It feels so good. And it's, the thing is, people are like, oh, no, I'm too egoic. I'm not God. I can't be that. And I say, well, let's animate the God part of you and the ego will soften. Because the only reason the ego's too strong is because you haven't been animating the God part of you. And you feel alone and scared. And so you develop this, okay, I'm going to go out there and make it happen. It's like, oh, time out. Don't do that again. You've been doing that. You know how to do that. Let's do something else.
And what we know from so many documented near-death experiences is people, they know that when they had that experience, and there's no unknowing it afterwards. They know it. Yeah. I know Dr. Anita Morjani is a friend of yours and wrote a part for your book, but that she has shared that, but so many other people as well. And so why not accept it? Why not accept that that's who you are?
I know. It's just, it's over there. It's over there. Nope. No.
It's yours.
Like, someday, but not today. Not for me. I don't want to die to get there. And I'm saying, you don't have to. You don't have to die. You're not supposed to. And actually, there are quotes in the Bible and in the Quran and in the Vedas and in the sacred texts that say you're meant to experience the heavens here in this lifetime, in this body, while you are living. And, but that hasn't been emphasized in the verbalization of those teachings. It hasn't been emphasized. It's just been kind of conveniently skipped over. And so, but it's happening. Books are coming out. People are talking about, things are changing. We are in a revolution of a revelation. And in that, things are going to turn inside out. People want to know and feel what's true. And sometimes it's uncomfortable because we've become familiar with the limited version of our description of who we are and what's possible for us. We become familiar, and familiarity, has become equated with safety. And it's not supposed to be. It's the most unsafe thing to do is to accept a limited version of who you are. The most unsafe thing to do is to accept that you're not worthy. The most unsafe thing to do is to accept that you don't have the right to the heavens, that you don't have the right to be expressing yourself here fully, that you don't have the right to move ahead even though you were abused or abandoned. To think that what happened has some hold over you is part of our limited reality that our psychology is suppressing by having us continue to talk about the problem as if it was this problem, when in reality, what if we spoke about it like, what if we were raised in a culture that was like knowing that these things were here to allow you to break your attachments and to awaken and to realize your sovereignty, your individuality. I was abused as a kid, sexually abused by a family member. And for some reason, I came to know that that was not my problem. It was not me. I didn't do anything wrong. And it was his problem. He had an illness and he was projecting that onto other people. And I was able to put it in a context like that. But it didn't mean that it didn't influence and make me question, what is family? What is love? Who do you trust? Am I okay? What's going on here? For a lot of years. But when I started having these realizations that we're talking about here, I realized that whole thing was setting me up to be an individual, not to just go along with the herd, not to just flow along. Because sometimes when people speak into their families about abuses or abandonments, the family just brushes it off and minimizes it and says, oh, no big deal, didn't happen, don't know what you're talking about, because they just can't. But what it's meant for you as an individual is for you to realize your path might not be your family's path. You might be here to heal some things. You might be the leader in a developmental way of your family, a spiritual leader, a quantum self-healer, a one who awakens, and the people around you in your immediate environment might not be. That might not be on their curriculum in this lifetime. So it's important that we learn how to embrace that and not feel like we have to run away from things or quit jobs or leave town or do the things that we oftentimes end up doing that allow us to eventually feel our individuation and our strength. We can learn to do that gracefully, right under the roof that we're living in, right inside the vocation that we are in and the circumstances that are currently in our life, maybe. And so if those are concerns for people, I want you to know that that kind of support is inside this whole conversation and inside the Anatomy of Awakening book. I understand that and wanted to put that all in one place. So there's a lot in that book, and
there is.
And in the coursework that I teach, of course, but it's there for you if you want it.
I really resonate with that idea that maybe we are here and experience that to be the one that it stops here. It stops here.
Yeah.
I remember a quote from a course I did with you where you said, talking about childhood abuse, which is, of course, a very hard subject. You said, big souls take on big projects and they get started early, which actually it kind of makes me weep every time I say it.
I know. Me too. It's like, whoa, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Your book is available. And I know that you are also giving away a gift with the book. So maybe you could tell us about it. And I will have the link to where people can go ahead and get that. But just tell us a little bit about the gift you've got.
There's a meditation associated with it just to support, moving into these vibrations that allow us to embrace, just kind of put our toe in the river. Like, I don't know what she's talking about exactly, but when we get into it, there is an opportunity to feel things inside your system that perhaps life hasn't caused you to feel, hasn't directed you to feel, hasn't invited you into knowing. And so that is available as people purchase the book. And in addition to that, there is a book resources page that when you buy the book, you can go to. It's like a multimedia thing where there are all sorts of demonstrations of all the practices, meditations, bringing you into the vibrational frequency of this whole reality that I'm talking about, to be guided, to allow you to not feel like you're on your own trying to figure this out. Because I know that that being in conscious community is one of the most valuable things that we can find in this life. And I am very devoted to creating that, yes, I can kind of sense about everything that I'm sharing. And so we have an entire community of people online that are there to support, etc., in all sorts of ways. We have people that are trained in this work as facilitators, the Anatomy of Awakening facilitators, and we're training coaches right now to embrace these higher 5 states of consciousness that we're bringing into the conversation as well. And there's just a tremendous amount of support here for you.
Absolutely wonderful. And I know your resources are incredible. You really, people say go the extra mile, like you've gone the extra, I don't know how many miles. Dr. Sue, one quick thing someone could do today that's going to shift them into a healing state, what would you say that would be?
Anchoring in your core with the anchor points that are taught in the book, and breathing in your belly and breathing up and down the central channel. Staying not just in your heart, but staying intimately involved with the energies that are moving through your system. When you have a reaction to something, there's a reason that you do. When you get triggered, there's a reason that you do. And of course, in the book, I'm teaching you how many ways to work with that. But right now, in these moments before you read the book, if you realize when you are triggered that there's simply a level of discomfort in your system, and rather than taking an action, thinking a thought, covering it up, projecting, justifying, doing any compensatory behavior like going online or surfing the web or doing something else, getting busy, cleaning your house for the 3rd time, whatever organizing and over-organizing we might do in an attempt to avoid the feelings that we don't want to feel. If you would do something so different from that and just sit for a moment and breathe inside of you and just ask, where in my system am I feeling a charge here? Where is this coming from? Is it here? Is it in my heart? Is it in my gut? Is it in my belly? What's really going on here? And just take a few breaths and be present with yourself. Because what happens in those moments changes the reality that you step into. When we ignore that and just go get busy or start appearing smart or guarding and protecting or shielding ourselves, we step into a different reality. And I'm inviting people to come back onto the self, where you have an option to step into many different realms and step into the realm of what I call in the book a greater love. Step into the realm of truly being present with what is rising in you. Because when you do that, you're actually allowing that whole divine continuum to have its way. You're on board with it. You're collaborating. You're stewarding the process that's trying to happen and trying to come through you in this most magnificent way that we are, referencing here. This whole continuum is trying to pour right through you and into your life. And we want it to be able to do so without interruption. The way to do that is to feel your feelings, feel them, and honor them in a beautiful way.
Love it. I love that practice. One of the best ones.
Yeah.
Dr. Sue, thank you so much for this incredible body of work that you continue to share with the world. I don't know how you do it. You must have, well, you got a lot of energy, obviously. You got all that coming behind you.
It's coming through. Yeah.
But thank you so much for all of that, for this gift to the world. And thank you for being this guest today on this show. It's been truly an honor for me to be part of this today and to share you with my audience. So thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, Jane. Thank you so much for all that you are and for being in the yes to living and inquiring and learning and putting things together and bringing people together to discuss and to share. It's what we have to do. It's what we're here to do. And so you're making a beautiful difference in the world for your efforts. So thank you.
Thank you for that. And thank you to everyone watching and listening. And don't forget, go get that book and get the gifts that go along with it and the resources. Dr. Sue's stuff is amazing. And if you know someone that needs to hear this, share this with them, because there's people that need to hear this. All right. Take care, everyone. And we'll see you again soon on Wholeness by Design.